I just want to give a simple overview today of the books of Leonard Ravenhill. I remember years ago a man of God telling me that as a young Christian he listened to as many tapes of Leonard Ravenhill as he could listen to. And he says, rather than me going through those tapes or those sermons went through me. And as a young Christian, I began reading the books of Leonard Ravenhill. And they have been such a challenge and such a blessing. And over the years, I feel my soul's getting cold sometimes, I lift something by Ravenhill and even read a few pages, and it certainly stirs your heart. So just want to go through the books of Leonard Ravenhill in the order in which they were published. The first one, of course, Why Revival Tarries. It came out in 1959. And that was Leonard Ravenhill's first book. Before that, he was an evangelist. Grew up in England, and along with other preachers, they travelled the length and breadth of England and Great Britain on foot, preaching in the open air, preaching in gospel missions and church halls. And he was a man with a burden for revival. And out of that burden came this book, Why Revival Tarries, in 1959. This is an early edition of the book. I think it was published, this one, in 1961 or 62. That's a slightly more updated version of it. Next book is called Meat for Men, Revival Sermons by Leonard Ravenhill. This one came out in 1961. It's not all that easy to get anymore, but it's wonderful. It's challenging. The sermons, the chapters are short, and I would encourage you, if you can, get this book by Leonard Ravenhill, Meat for Men. Here's one that's been republished in recent years, Revival Praying, Leonard Ravenhill's third book. And this one came out in 1962. It focuses a lot on the prayer vigil and the prayer life of Hannah. And I still remember where I was and what stage I was at in my Christian life whenever I read Revival Praying. A brother in the Lord loaned me this book. It had been out of print for a while, and I remember reading it and being stirred and blessed and reading it in a very short space of time, and so much of it still sticks with me. So a great book on prayer, Revival Praying by Leonard Ravenhill. Then Leonard Ravenhill's fourth book is called Tried and Transfigured, and the same person who loaned me this book as well. And then there was a bookshop in Belfast, and I was browsing upstairs in it, and I came across this copy of it, Tried and Transfigured by Leonard Ravenhill. This one came out in 1963. So there were four books come out in very short succession, almost year after year. This one focuses on the person of Jesus Christ, his temptation, his trial in the wilderness before commencing his earthly preaching ministry, and then takes you across to Matthew 17, the Mount of Transfiguration. It's a very personal book, a bit different from the books that he'd written before, but Tried and Transfigured is a book that every Christian should read. And then Sodom Had No Bible. I was always intrigued by the title of this book. In the church that I grew up in the committee room of the church hall complex, there was a bookshelf and a number of books, and this one was in the bookshelf, and I remember I used to lift it down from time to time and just have a look at the cover. Depicts a scene in New York City, a lot of traffic, and the title Sodom Had No Bible, and I used to wonder as a young boy, what is that book about? And years later, a friend was reading it, and I remember lifting it and reading some of it for myself. And then within a short while, I got a copy of it and read it. Sodom Had No Bible. This book is different again because the second half of the book gives about 10 biographical sketches of some of the great missionaries and evangelists of an old generation that has come and gone. Then after Sodom Had No Bible, another book, America Is Too Young to Die. It came out in 1979. I thought I had it on the shelf behind me here, but I think I must have put it away in a box somewhere along with some books I've read. It's probably his least known work. America Is Too Young to Die came out 1979. And then the last book that he published before he passed away to be with the Lord, Revival God's Way. This one came out in 1983. It's his most recent work. I'm not sure if it's still in print or not, but it's in a similar vein as to his first book, Why Revival tarries. And anything you read by Leonard Ravenhill will certainly stir your soul and bless you and encourage you in the Christian life. So I'm just going to read a few words from Why Revival Tarries. I've highlighted this book. I've read it several times. And this is a chapter towards the end of the book, Prayer as Vast as God. Let me just read a few quotes from within 2 pages of this book. Prayer as vast as God. The secret of praying is praying in secret. One can read a library of prayer books and not be one whit more powerful in prayer. We must learn to pray, and we must pray to learn to pray. As the bullet unspent bags no game, so the prayer heart unburdened gathers no spoil. Much of our praying is like the boy who rings the doorbell and then runs away before the door is opened. Prayer is as vast as God because he is behind it. Prayer is as mighty as God because he has committed himself to answer it. At the judgment seat of Christ, the most embarrassing thing the believer will face will be the smallness of his praying. Why Revival Tarries? Get into Ravenhill, it'll bless your soul.